Good morning. Welcome to your Sunday early morning intuitive guidance. I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum. Here's some words of wisdom to get you thinking because we're at the end of the year and it is a fabulous time to review. So that's going to be our theme for today. And we'll give it a minute till people start to pop on. And I think it's very warm out there today. Good morning, Abigail. You're the first one here today. Welcome, welcome. So, yes, we are having unseasonably warm weather. I think it's right now 10 degrees warmer than is typical. And due to get relatively warm today, the snow is pretty much gone. I think toward the end of this week, we're going to hit some colder temperatures. But thank you for the rainbow and the sunshine. I appreciate that. So, good morning, Beth. Welcome. Glad you're here. I've been doing some due diligence and getting myself out there and walking more. Again, I had a really good routine going. Good morning, Cindy. Welcome. Hello, Joe Neal. Good morning. Good morning. Had a really good routine going walking, and then it kind of fell apart. So I'm cobbling it back together now. And will kind of fit with today's theme, which is basically your year and your life in review. Hello, Cindy. Glad everybody's here. We'll give it a minute for everybody to pop on. And then we're going to do a little guidance through a review. Good morning, Chrissy K. Glad you are here. Welcome. Everybody rolling in. This is good. And my counter only says 3, and I know I've said hi to more of you than 3. So, distortions of reality. So, and let's see. For today, I don't have a card. I sat down and I had watched something yesterday. Good morning, Lisa. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Sunday. I had watched a video yesterday, and sometimes I watch her and sometimes I don't, but this one called to me, so I watched it. And it was basically, for those of you who follow her, Amanda Ellis, who's from the UK and is a reader. And she was talking about her year. And thank you. I will have a beautiful day. I have no idea what all I'm going to do with my beautiful day, but I will have a beautiful day. She was talking about her year in review, and she had some interesting things to say. So we don't have a card today, but I kind of want to riff on the things that she was talking about. And if you want to go view it, it's a very thought-provoking one. Her videos tend to run about an hour, so they're longer. But she said some interesting things, which I think the same kind of thing for what I'm doing here. The videos that I think are the deepest, the most profound, aren't the ones that get a whole lot of views here. The ones that are more fluff, they get a whole lot of views. I think that just speaks to where people are at right now. But the image that kind of popped into my mind with where we're at is like when a toddler is going from crawling to walking. Sometimes they crawl because that's what they're comfortable with and it goes really fast. Other times they're willing to test those little legs and see if they can do the bipedal thing, right? So I think we, spiritually, energetically, etc., are kind of at that toddler place. We're going from crawling, 3-dimensional, to 5D walking. And there's still more to come. There's still more to come. But in this transition, good morning, Carolyn. Welcome. Glad you're here. In this transition time, there's times where we're doing one and times where we're doing the other. And we're kind of back and forth. Or you can think about it as a foot in each world. A foot in the 3D world and a foot in the 5D world. And that creates some, good morning, Mel, creates a ton of opportunity. Oh, thank you, Cindy. I greatly appreciate it. Awesome. But the things she was talking about, for one thing, she was talking about this year as having been the year when her dad was diagnosed with cancer and how that impacted her. Good morning, Maureen. He is recovering well, but that wasn't expected. Recovery wasn't expected. And so she talked about how that impacted her life and how that impacted her work. How do you show up fully present when one of your people you love is struggling not to die, right? So I was taking some of her questions and her thoughts and just kind of rolling them around in my mind. And I thought that would be great grist for our meal today. One of the things she said with some little bit of righteous indignation is how many of the readers already have their predictions for 2025 out there. And she's kind of like, good morning, Bonnie, glad you are here, welcome. She's like, people, we aren't even done with 2024 yet. Kind of the Alcoholics Anonymous, stay in today, stay in today. Are we truly living today, or are we so invested in what's coming next, what's coming next, what's coming next, that we miss out on the beauty of today and the challenges of today? So let's mess around. Let's see what comes to my brain as I recall things she talked about yesterday. And if you want to view it for yourself, feel free. How she does her work. Thank you for the sunrise and the sunshine. Appreciate it. How she does her work is interesting. Interesting. So know that if you watch it, it's going to be interesting. However, there are some points that she makes that I think are just really important. One of those points being that we are one foot in each world at this point. We're still a little bit mired in the 3D limited kind of stuff, but we're also messing around with spending time in the 5D. And one of the ways that I know that we've been making this shift is the stuff that I teach, the stuff that I talk about. I used to have to work my butt off to help people understand it. It was like people didn't get it. Now, when I say some of the stuff that I say, people are like, oh, and not only that, blah, 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 and they're off and running. We've moved, we've shifted, we've changed. And that's a constant thing that happens. And sometimes it's groans forward and then some sliding back. And then some more groans forward and then some sliding back. That's part of the process, folks. That is just part of the process. So we don't need to be overly distressed by the belches, wheezes, and coughs of the universe. It's part of our process of growth. Again, you watch a toddler learning to walk, they spend more time on their ass than they do on their feet. Do they give up? No, they keep going. Sometimes there's some tears involved. Sometimes they need a hug from somebody, but they get back up and they try again. So that's kind of where we're at with these sorts of things. So one of the things that she talked about in terms of kind of doing your year in review and the value of doing your year in review. If we just keep blithely trucking along without paying any attention to what happened back there and how did it go and what do I want to carry into the new year and what don't I? What am I leaving behind? What am I saying sayonara to? It was very interesting listening to her talk about the people and the relationships in her life. And that when she gets to this point of crossing over into a new year, a whole lot of that stuff is staying back there. A whole lot of those people are staying back there. We've walked a path with them for a certain amount of time, and they're not meant to continue walking beside us. It happens. It's not terrible, horrible, awful. It's part of the process. And another way, this is more of a business approach to it, but I think it can be useful. In my Mary Kay business, one of the things that Mary Kay Ash said, in your business, have both faucets open. You're bringing in new people, you're doing the stuff, you're putting product on people's faces, blah, 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 but you also have the drain open. So the stagnant stuff is washing away. Think about a pool of water. If it doesn't have some kind of flow to it, if it doesn't have a spring feeding it or whatever, it gets stagnant, right? And then it's a mosquito breeder. So how do you keep things flowing? And how do you acknowledge, good morning, Angie, glad you are here, welcome. Haven't seen you in a bit. How do you acknowledge those let's call them losses? How do you acknowledge those losses, yet realize they are for the highest and best good, and proceed anyway? So, I'm reading a new book. I know you guys always get. It's the newest Brene Brown book, Atlas of the Heart. Read the first page and sent a photocopy to my sister Vicky. Good morning, Catherine. Glad you're here. And said, "It's us." And she sent back, "No kidding." Her family patterns were very similar to our family patterns, which is you never talk about what's going wrong. You just go along as if it's all okay, right? And one of the things that Vicky says, one of her former coworkers said about the institution that they worked for was, must be okay, they're doing it, which was a way to kind of blow off the what the hell are they thinking approach. So let's take a moment. Let's do it. Oh, you haven't read it yet. Oh, good. You're watching a series. Okay, fabulous. Keep pitching things out here as we go, ladies, because this is the direction we're going. And I so love having people who can talk about it with me. That is just so exciting. So let's start with some breath and a little bit of tapping. Pick your spot. This is my favorite. In through the nose, out through the mouth. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Yes, denial ain't just a river in Egypt, right? And love them where they're at. Love them where they're at in their denial. Again, I had a family member who said recently that she saw what my efforts and one of my sister's efforts toward healing abuse cost us. But my thing is, I would much rather have traversed that crappy territory when I was still in control of my faculties, still had strength, still had support, etc., than end of life where you can't keep the barrier up there anymore and the floodgates open. And I saw that happen to, it wasn't one of my family members, it was one of my now ex-husband's family members, where she couldn't hold that crap at bay anymore, and it was flooding her at end of life. No. Do the work now. Do the work now. So, what I'd like us to think about, another breath. Let it go. I want you to turn a kind and loving eyeball back on 2024. And I want you to take, if you have a journal, this is a fabulous opportunity to utilize that journal. Just kind of drift your way through the journal and look at what are the things that went on in 2024. I don't know about all you, but my mind doesn't hang on to all that stuff very well. It's like, next. So having the journals, I can go back and I can look and go, wow, I remember that. And yeah, I was really upset about that at that moment. Now I didn't even remember it. It was past. It's done. Yay me. Review the year. Review the things you did. Review the things you wanted to accomplish. Review the people you walked the path of 2024 with. How many of them are still with you at the end of 2024? There's another great idea. Go through the pictures on your phone. Yes. You know what I noticed with the pictures on my phone? It's flowers, it's dogs, it's architecture. Very few people. I just think that's so interesting. But look through those things. Who was walking the path with you early in the year? Are they still walking the path with you late in the year? If not, that's fine. Some of them you might feel the energy of, I need to put some energy into that relationship. Some of them you might feel like, no, that was the period of time they needed to walk with me. I blessed them on their way. Good morning, Cheryl. Welcome. At the end of the year here, taking a look at who's walking my path with me right now. And are they walking the path with me? Are we kind of assisting each other along the path? Or are they hanging on to the back of our pants, screaming and hollering and trying to pull us back and not letting us move? Guess who might be on the list to leave behind in 2024? Just saying. So, even if those are people, like many of you will say, yeah, that's my spouse, or that's my mother-in-law, or that's my sister, or people that you're really not going to necessarily pitch to the curb. But how you relate to them can change. Atlas of the Heart. You can bring in new language. She's talking about language too, which I thought was very interesting. Bring in new language that allows for a depth of communication. Does that mean that person, especially if they're still heavily functioning in 3D, does that mean you're going to sit down with them and have this long, blissful, deep conversation? No. But it might mean, instead of talking about how pissed off they seem, and pissed off is the only word you can come up with, taking anger and looking at what are the flavors of anger? What are the variations of anger? Good morning, Diane. Glad you're here. Is this person irritated, frustrated, livid, rage-filled? You know, there's a whole lot of flavors to anger. Most of our emotions, you know, so the beginning part of the research she's talking about in the book, this is Brene Brown. Oh, there we go. So Cindy's popping up useful resources. Take advantage if you wish. The interesting thing that she's saying early in her research is many people could name like 3 emotions: sad, glad, mad. That was about the extent of the nuance that they had with emotion. We need to be much more precise in talking about our emotions. I'm irritated because, I'm frustrated about, I am enraged because. Whoever is hearing us say that is going to have a much better sense of where we're at and what's helpful. She also talks in the book about the difference between, I'm trying to think of her words, but the basic gist of it was stressed versus overwhelmed, and that we're sloppy with those words. Stressed is there's more impinging on you than you feel like you can manage at the time, but you're managing and you're you know, doing the dance. You're tap dancing as fast as you can. Overwhelmed is you are beyond functioning. You can't. So if someone says, well, what do you need from me? You can't even answer because your brain is offline. You don't know. How we respond to the person who's stressed needs to be different than how we respond to the person who's overwhelmed. The overwhelmed person needs to be offline for a while. They need to not be impinged upon anymore. They need to be working to get their feet back under them and get a full breath. The person who's stressed, that person, you can say, what do you need from me? Well, can you do this, this, and this? Yep, I can do that for you. The person can still articulate what it is that would be helpful to them. When you're too overwhelmed, you're done. You're done, you're done. Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. How we speak to ourselves, how we speak to others. And even if people aren't ready to hear it, because how do we help people grow? It's by offering them something that's a little beyond where they're at, right? If you're working with that toddler who's walking and you constantly hold that toddler on your lap, are they ever going to learn to walk? No. When you're trying to get kids to eat new foods, what do? You introduce a little bit of it, right? So that's what we're doing right now, is we're introducing a little bit of this stuff, a little bit of new vocabulary, a little bit of new thought process, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and see who picks it up and runs with it. See who can talk back with that similar flow. See who's willing to dabble a bit. How awesome, right? So, again, going into 2025, Amanda Ellis is basically saying it is really important to review 2024. Learn what you're meant to learn from that. Do the review. Slow down. She said something also about being still and how many of us don't like being still. We want to keep going. But the problem with going is you can get off of your trajectory pretty easily and you're not paying attention to the autopilot that's saying, you shifted a little bit too far this way or that way, you need to come back. We need to slow ourselves down, have some contemplative time. That's why I think this time of year is so fabulous, because oftentimes the weather will help us dictate our downtime. Oh, it's a blizzard out there. I'm going to just be in, and I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to be still. Can you, now where did I'm trying to remember who said this, but I thought, that is true. That is absolutely true. Might have been Amanda, might have been Brene Brown, I'm not sure. But the gist of it being, our generation is the last generation that knows what it was like before the internet. All the generations after us have no idea. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was one of my St. Vinny hauls. They don't have any idea what it was like to exist without this little box that gives you answers. They don't have any idea. And now we're going to be getting to the point where there's generations that don't know what it's like to not have artificial intelligence. Think about that. That is mind-boggling. We being the last generation that has any memory of what it was like to not have the internet. Anybody for interlibrary loan? Yes, I know it still happens, but anybody for, I remember being amazed when I read a story, I don't know how old I was certainly an adult, about a man whose house was burning, and he ran out of the house with his cell phone, and he could call the authorities from the end of the driveway. You know? We had this Princess phone with this really long cord. We thought the really long cord was cool, right? Encyclopedias, yes. Now encyclopedias are basically used by designers to put leather-bound books on shelves and make them look pretty. Yep. We had the whole set. We had the childcraft. We wore those pages out. If you take the D book and you look under dog, those pages are ripped and torn. And my little brother could name every frickin' dog that was in there. Interesting memories, right? So, looking back on 2024, what are the top couple of things that you want to bring with you as learning? One of the things that I articulated much more clearly is that sugar disembodies me. You know, I could do all the things of, yeah, sugar gives me a fix and then a crash. Sugar numbs feelings. But the fact that it disembodies me, it disconnects me from my body. Yes, playing in the yard without supervision. My dad had an air horn from Bonnie Kaczynski. You might remember this because we lived next door to each other. My dad had an air horn in the garage, and he'd turn on the air compressor and blow the air horn when it was time for us to come home from wherever the hell we were, right? So we'd crawl up from under bushes, down from trees, out of people's basements, off our bikes, wherever we were. It's time to come home. Yeah, we don't do that anymore. We don't do that anymore. And that's one of the things I think is in the movement of the intentional community idea, that when you have a tight woven group of people, you can again let your kid go out and play in the yard with other kids. There'll be other kids to do that with. So again, that's one I'm lifting up for 2025 is let's get this show on the road with the intentional community stuff in my world. We'll see what happens. So, looking at 2024, what do you want? There we go. I want to choose myself first. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Exactly. The bell to bring you into dinner. Choose yourself first. What's that going to look like, sound like, feel like, Carolyn? It would be good to write about it. What is it going to look like? What will we see when Carolyn is putting herself first? Make a list of things that are visible, that a camera could take a picture of. This is what it's going to look like when I put myself first. What's it going to sound like when I put myself first? Is there going to be more conversation? Is there going to be less conversation? Is there going to be some silence? Is there going to be laughter? Am I going to be listening to birds? What will I hear when I'm putting myself first? And what will I feel? How will I feel when I've put myself first? Pick a feeling and then really make that feeling stand out. So this part is one of the parts I love from the NLP worksheet that I do. If you want to go back and watch this part of the video and do this. So let's say Carolyn picks the word peaceful. I will feel peaceful when I put myself first. Or I will feel empowered when I put myself first. Whatever you'll feel when you do that. Then I want you to flesh that out, because the child part of us, the 95% of our consciousness that's subconscious, needs a different language. Hello, Linda. Did I say hi to you before, or am I just yakking away? Good morning, good morning. Needs a different understanding of that word, empowered, or whatever, peaceful, whatever our word is, than the adult does. The adult gets those words. Oh yeah, empowered, let's do that. That's 5% of our consciousness. But the child self, the subconscious mind, needs to understand it in a different way. So, I'm just going to pick one. Let's pick empowered. So, yes, exactly, loving kindness. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll hit that. Thanks, Brenda. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that feeling, empowered. I'm going to try on empowered. I've felt empowered before. I know what it feels like. I'm going to feel it again. I want to step into what does that feel like. So I'm literally feeling it in the moment. We can remember. And if it's something we haven't felt before, we're bright people. I want you to imagine, what is it going to feel like to feel empowered? Try it on. Then ask yourself these questions. If this feeling had a color, what color would it be? For me, empowered is green. If this feeling had a shape, what shape would it be? For me, it would be a sphere. How about a temperature? Cool. A texture? Smooth. Did I get them all? I think I got them all. Anywho, then you look at, okay, how can I put this into a first person present tense statement of what will be true, as if it's already happened. I am empowered when I put myself first. I am empowered when I put myself first. I am empowered when I put myself first. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Spend a little time with, what do I stand to lose by being empowered? Well, so-and-so is going to get his nose bent out of shape. I'm not sure I know how to do it. All the things. Then, am I willing to risk those potential negative outcomes in order to accomplish my goal? Hell yes. Hopefully, hell yes. And then you proceed. So, spending some time with this stuff, doing a little deeper dive into this. There we go. Let go of constant information gathering as a defense mechanism. Yes, yes, yes. Let go of constant stimulation. Can you allow yourself to again be bored? Most creativity, I think, arises out of boredom. Well, what if I did this? Or what if I did that? Or maybe those two could go together. Or, the creative stuff. What just popped into my head, remember the book, A Giraffe and a Half, blah, 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 that one? Creativity, right? Or I wish that I had duck feet. All the things that would happen if one had duck feet. Useful, creative. Little kids run with this stuff. By the time we've educated them, we've pretty much beaten the creativity out of them. How do we, again, stir creativity? How do we do things in a different way? So I was watching one of the influencers I like to watch because he's remodeling his Spanish Revival home. Good morning, Robin. Glad you are here. And he lives in LA. And if you want to check him out, he goes by Lone Fox. But I love watching what he does. So he took this Christmas tree base thing. It was meant to hide the base. And he flipped it upside down and made it look more like a basket that was holding the tree instead of this. It was cool. It's like, all he did was flip it upside down. How cool is this? But he was willing to look at it outside of what it was intended for. We need to be able to do that too. Look at things outside of what they're intended for. How else could I use this? How else could I use this? And practicing, and I can't, someone else brought this up recently, and I had heard this before, and I actually had it on my wall when I was functioning as a psychologist. Love people, use things. Love people, use things. Actually, I think that came out of those, the guys who did the TED Talk on minimalism. I think that's where that came from. Love people, use things. Brilliant, right? So, what I would like for you to do today, your mission, should you choose to accept it, it's a Sunday. Hopefully you don't have a whole lot of crap on your agenda. Spend some time thinking about 2024. What did you learn? What was helpful? What are you willing to leave behind? What doesn't get to come with you into 2025? As we enter 2025, a streamlined version of ourselves, what's coming with and what's staying behind? What has served its purpose no longer needs to be schlepped along, right? Taking a little bit of time, even if you only take a half an hour, even if you only took 10 minutes, doing this discernment, this piece of discernment. Why do I think this is important? Because then moving into 2025, you're going to be fleet of foot in terms of what greets you as you cross that border. There's 13 of you on here right now and myself, so that's 14 total. As we make this change, as we have conversations with other people. So I'm going to be talking to my Goal Crushers group today, which I just think is a hilarious young person title. But that's something I'm going to talk to them about is what are you going to leave behind in 2024? It's done serving you, bless it on its way, and move into 2025. What gets to come with you? I want to see what they have to say. I think they'll have some very interesting answers. So that's your mission for today. Spend some time with it. Let's see what you get. And I just think it's hilarious that I didn't have a card today and I wasn't sure what I was going to be talking about. And here we are. It's long. It's long. Take from it what feeds your soul. Challenge yourself a little bit. See you again tomorrow. Remember, you're capable of far more than you think you are. Bye-bye.